All righty, good Wednesday evening, everyone. A minute late, but we're here. I'm Fox 19 Now First Alert Meteorologist Brad Maushart with the 7:15/now 7:16 weather show. If you're going to be out and about tonight, we have another opportunity this evening to see the northern lights. We could, anyway. I've been looking at some of the data that's been coming in. It does not look to be as intense as what we saw outside last night. That's not uncommon. I tried to tell some folks on Facebook and elsewhere that that's typically how it goes. I think I even brought it up last night during the stream, is that typically you'll have one well-advertised night, and it's usually the night before the night after that night. Today was supposed to be the well-advertised day. There was an X-class solar flare that was heading this direction, and as it interacts with the atmosphere, you could see some roars, and then last night it ended up being a big show. We had some directly, basically overhead here in the tri-state. Really great night for a ton of pictures. But the latest data I've been looking at, and here's one of the things I've been looking at. You're going to lose me for a second, but that doesn't hurt anybody, is this, and that is the K index, right? And that's something we've been keeping an eye on. Yesterday you could see how that was clearly in the red. Near the top of the scale there, an 8 or a 9, right? That's what you need to get those auroras sometimes to come down this far to the south. They're always up by the poles, in these kind of background levels of 2, 3s, 4s. But if you want to get a good show from the auroras here in the tri-state, you need that to almost max out, 8 or 9. And last night, at times, we were at a 9 after 7 o'clock. The show really started to pick up right as I was starting the stream yesterday. Things have calmed down through the morning, through the evening. You can see at last check there. I can't see this because it's small on my screen, but I think at last check we're still at about a 5 or a 6. Not to say it's too late or it's not going to happen. That last flare we were watching has arrived. They've been talking about that, the space weather prediction folks, but the numbers are still pretty low on things that have been coming in. And I can't read that. I think it was a 5 or a 6. Anyway, we need it at least at a 7 if we're going to have a chance. And that would be very low on the horizon, very faint. You're going to need a picture to see it, kind of a situation, and not as good as last night. Nevertheless, let's talk some weather. Let's talk all things auroras. Let's talk about how auroras form, and because that's really small, I'll make that full screen because I'm very nice. Let's see, roller door. Here's how they form, right? So the sun, this is obviously not to scale. The sun, sometimes it burps, right? It lets off a little bit of energy, some electrically charged protons, electrons. They come flying at us, and if they are directly aimed at the Earth, right, moving target, because we're flying through space pretty quick. But if that big pulsar, coronal mass ejection of particles, hits the Earth, it would first encounter our magnetic field. That's what you're seeing there in the blue lines, right? That protects us a lot from the solar wind, a lot of the harmful effects of the sun. But sometimes these very powerful eruptions from the sun's surface, they get caught up in the magnetic field, they get wound around and pulled in at the poles. That's why the auroras are always at the poles. That's where those particles interact with elements of our atmosphere aloft. In this case, it interacts with oxygen way out in the atmosphere, the electronically charged portion of our atmosphere, nitrogen, all kinds of stuff. And then you get these cool auroras, right? It's an electrical storm happening aloft. I'm talking way aloft. We're not even close to the surface. We're about 160 miles up at points, right? Sometimes you can have it 60, 70, 80 miles, but sometimes it's double that, 150, 160 miles up. When those electrons and protons collide with various molecules, they get excited, and that's the auroras that you see. And they can be different colors. The most common colors are red and green, about 150 miles up. For comparison's sake, because we could have another spoiler tonight outside of the auroras just not showing up at all, which would be clouds. Clouds, a big thunderstorm can get up to 60,000 feet. Right? Let's just guesstimate and say that's almost a little over 10 miles. This is 6 times that for the lowest auroras and 15 times that for the highest. They're way up there. And, it's a pretty cool sight. Hopefully you got to see it last night because, again, I'm not really 1,000% confident we're going to have a good show again this evening. Nevertheless, if you're going to see auroras here in the tri-state, generally you want that K index, that KP number, to be anywhere between about 8 or 9. Last night it was a 9, and we had a great show. Tonight, the forecast, the last forecast I saw a couple hours ago, had us at a 7.6 or a 7.7, which on a good night, with mostly clear skies, like tonight, early on anyway, we could see those auroras low on the horizon, but they're typically pretty faint. They're not really able to be viewed all that well with the naked eye, but you can still catch them with your phone, right? Your phone has a night mode on it, and it picks up light. It takes in 3 seconds of light, way better than your eye ever could. And you might still get out there and be able to see some of this. At last check, hold on, let me pull it up over here so I can actually see what's going on. Give me just a second. So we need an 8, we need a 9, somewhere in there to have a good show. And at last check, I think we were at like a 6. Which, that's a pretty good, geomagnetic storm, but it's not, let's see, give me a second. I can't type and talk at the same time, that's my problem. Let's see, I had another site that I was going to show y'all, but it was not cooperating with the software. So I don't have that for you. Let's see, is that going to show? No, it's not. Anyway, I digress. Let's see, I'm working on this other computer here, and the latest check has our K index at a 5. Yeah, it's been bouncing back and forth between 5 and 6. There are some other things. There's a lot of different factors. This is a really hard thing to predict. You got to think about it. There's very few things between us and the sun. We don't have weather stations, space weather stations hanging out in between to measure what's coming our way and exactly what way it's directed, right? But there are some indices, there are some tools, and right now we have another index. The K index at last check was a 5. A different KP index was a 4. That's not great. And then the Nowcast index, the HP30, has us at a 5. Yesterday it was a 9 plus. Some other things, though, the solar wind is picking up. We showed you that in the first graphic. That's how much, the particles that are coming in and what speed it's coming in. And the solar wind right now has been clocked at 916.38 kilometers a second. That's really fast. The faster it crashes into the magnetic field, generally the more disruptions it could have, right? If it kind of bends those magnetic fields around, it can really mess with things, and that could produce a better show. The strength right now of the magnetic field is high, and the direction has changed. Now, earlier, the direction most of the day, last day, you want it to be south, right? The direction of the magnetic field, because that helps to pull down the aurora from the poles. Yesterday, it was south by a long. I did not check this yesterday because I was outside taking pictures, but it was south. It switched back to north through much of the day today, and it wasn't looking great. But now it's switched back to the south again, and we will see what happens with that. Right now, there's a moderate solar radiation storm happening up there in the polar regions, which could impact, high-frequency radios and so on. But, yeah, let's see. Let's pull up spaceweather.gov and see what we got going on. If you want to look at these numbers, by the way, and some of the information that space weather folks put out there, you can always just go to spaceweather.gov. That's the actual government website that has these things. And as of earlier this afternoon, this would have been, let's see, 7, 6, 5, 4, about 4 o'clock this afternoon. They're still under a G4, another indice, another number. G4 just meaning, that goes 1 to 5. It's just like category 1 to 5 in hurricanes, 5 being the worst. G4 is good enough. That would be a severe geomagnetic storm for us. That would be enough to get us, to an 8 or 9 perhaps. And we still have a watch. So think of it like a severe thunderstorm watch, a geomagnetic storm watch. That means that conditions are favorable. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but conditions are favorable to get us up to that G4 geomagnetic storm. And I'm just reading through this. A lot of it, what they're saying is, the expectation is that we are still going to see a geomagnetic, storm of sorts. But if we're going to get the auroras to come down, a lot of that depends. It's highly dependent on the orientation of the embedded magnetic field, right? So this is just, there's a lot that goes into this. It's tough to predict, and but the potential is still there for extreme level storms, right? That takes us up to that 9. That's at the top of the scale, what you're seeing here on the screen. So anyway, yesterday we were at a G4 easily. We were in the 9+ range for a few hours last night, which is where you're seeing all those gorgeous pictures. Even in the city lights, I could still see some of the auroras out there. We are currently, at last check, let's see. Yeah, they're still predicting a G4 for tonight. So again, not impossible. Now let me tell you what. If that wasn't bad news, all right. Let me tell you what's going to happen here. Let me get back to the right computer. First, some photos. Let's reminisce, shall we? Here's some great photos. This was Lisa B. Sorry, Lisa, I did not see anywhere on your photo where this was taken. But Lisa B. picked up the beautiful auroras there last night, drifting through our Cincinnati skies, our tri-state skies. This is what we're going to have an issue with tonight, and it's going to be clouds. Yesterday, those clouds were exiting. We were on our way to a really clear night. Tonight, the opposite. We're starting off with the clear skies. Clouds are going to be rolling in. Clouds, obviously, not as high as 160-mile high auroras, so they're sandwiched in between. That could block our view. That could be an issue out there this evening. This did not deter the view, though, at all. Here, let me pull these up full screen so you can see them nicely. Roller door. Lauren S. from Augusta sent us this. The other thing you want to get away from is city lights. There are not many in this photo, but the more light pollution you have down at the horizon tonight is going to make a big difference, because last night it really didn't matter all that much. Even if you were in downtown, you could still see the auroras because they were overhead almost. But if they are going to be low on the horizon tonight, you can see kind of this little layer here at the bottom of this photograph. Even out of Augusta looking north, there's a little bit of light pollution down there that will wash out the color. The greens, the reds, you will not see it. It'll get mixed in. So you want to get away from city lights. Have a clear, dark sky to your north. No city lights on the horizon even. And hopefully we get some luck out there this evening. But clouds are going to start to push in by about 10 to 11 o'clock. That's going to try to play spoiler this evening, and they'll hang with us for much of the rest of the overnight. So we have about 2.5 hours for space weather to get its stuff together before those clouds arrive. Then one more great photo. Sean C. from Mount Orab sent us this one. Again, really cool stuff. One of my favorite things, easily, is the auroras. And I think one of the appealing things is, here you don't see them that often, right, at all. We've been kind of lucky. We've seen a couple in the last, we saw another one, what was it, May last year. That one went all the way down to Florida, and then the big night was supposed to be the night after, kind of like what we're dealing with tonight, and then it didn't happen. So we're kind of in the same boat, but either way, we'll see what happens. That's a live look of nothing. You're not going to see it on this camera. This camera is not going to pick this up. But I do have another camera, another few that are pointed the other direction, and I'll show them to you. Hold on. Maybe, if I've done this before. All right, here's the camera last night that at 10 o'clock we were watching the auroras dance on by. Nothing showing up on that. This is not going to have the greatest of views of the show, but if they're bright enough, they would show up on this camera. I'm not seeing them right now. Remember last night, if you were watching at 10 o'clock, you also saw this view, which was very green and very red at times, out of North College Hill. This is the Clovernut Country Club, which most of the time is a useless camera at this time of the night because you can't see anything. But last night it was glowing green. So I got several reports coming in here on the comments section. Nothing showing up yet on the phone. That's fine. We're not going to see anything right this instant. And the reason is, again, last check, we still are sitting at last check here at a 4.67. We need that number to get a lot higher. We need to get back to the 8 to 9 range, and we're just not there currently. There's been a subtle uptick on one of the values that comes in every 30 minutes. That's back to a 5 and on its way up, and we'll see what happens with that. One of the other things that could go wrong with this, because there's so many things that can go wrong, right? On a severe weather day, similar situation. You might miss one of the ingredients, boom, you don't have tornadoes that we predicted that day. Maybe because there was just not enough shear, the temperatures were just about 5 degrees too cool or something, right? So a lot of things could go wrong with space weather too when you're trying to predict auroras. One of the things that might be happening, you got to think about this, right? This is coming from 93 something odd million miles away. All that energy from the sun has to hit directly at the Earth. If it's even off by a little bit, you can just get a glancing blow, like maybe that's what we're seeing right now while we're not seeing a whole lot of anything happening. It might have just missed by a little bit, right? It's tough to tell because we don't have a lot of things on the way to say, oh, that's absolutely going to go right between, right into the Earth's magnetic field. So we'll keep an eye on this. Let's talk some weather. We'll get back to this and see if anything changes here before I shut up. But for at least right now, not a whole lot happening out there. So if you're going to be checking, check again in probably about a half hour, an hour or so. We'll see if anything changes with that. Let's see. Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a great day. I was able to see the auroras in Aurora. It's a great name for a situation for this. Like this, checked it a few minutes ago, nothing out there right now. Another person saying I don't see anything right now, and one other person saying I did not see anything even on the phone. Again, yes, you're probably not going to see anything just yet. Don't give up hope just yet, because that also happens. And we see a lot of people that give up the hope and head back inside, or I'm not saying stand outside for the next 3 hours. You can take breaks, but a lot of people call it quits and go to bed, and then the show picks up. We'll see what happens. Still got a lot of night left, and it wasn't until yesterday the CME, the coronal mass ejection, had hit early in the afternoon or late in the afternoon, and nothing happened for a while, and then boom, at 7 o'clock it just turned on. The auroras are weird like that sometimes, but what I've also noted is that you've heard a lot of hype today. That's always what happens. A lot of people get hyped up after they missed it the night before, and then they want to get it the next night, and everybody's hyping it up. And then I think the quote I had earlier was, they tend to disappoint more than they dazzle. It's just how it is. I lived even in Alaska for a while, and it was, I think, overhead. We had them twice, 2 or 3 times directly overhead. Last night was a good show. Hopefully you got to catch some of that, because it might be another year before we see them, or even more than that. 49 outside right now if you are headed out to check out and see if we get some auroras this evening. It's a lot warmer than yesterday. We have been running significantly warmer, even with a little bit of light wind. I know 40s and 49 doesn't feel all, you're going to say, well, that feels kind of chilly. But compared to where we've been the last couple of days, we'll take it. And a lot of that snow's gone too. We are still running 12 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago. Not saying you won't need a coat, but I will take that all day, every day. There is what is going to try to play spoiler there off the west. You can see that little bit of cloud cover just starting to cross the Indiana state line. There are some breaks. Let me get rid of this. Give me a second. Whoop, 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 that. All right. So all of that is headed in. The worst of the cloud cover should start to settle in about 10, 11 o'clock tonight. And then we'll continue to hang with us through much of the overnight. It's certainly better than what they're seeing up to the northeast, which is nothing. They will not be seeing the auroras tonight in Pennsylvania, New York. A lot of lake effect nonsense happening up there. Here, it's not going to be completely shrouded in cloud cover. It looks like we catch some breaks here before the thicker clouds roll in through the overnight here to the northwest. But, for the tri-state in particular, and I don't know where we got people watching from, but the earlier the better tonight. So that's why we kind of need the stuff to pick back up. If it doesn't start to turn green and red here in the next 2 hours, we're going to have a tough time seeing it anyway due to the clouds rolling in. So that's going to be our biggest issue tonight. Our biggest enemy outside of them not showing up at all is going to be the cloud cover kind of blocking that view. Let's take a look at temperatures tonight. We're dropping back into the low 30s tomorrow morning. Not a bad start to Thursday. Here come the clouds. Again, as early as 10, 11, 12 o'clock, we'll see clouds rolling in from the northwest. Why is that bad? Well, you have to look up to the north to see the northern lights, and you're going to be looking into that cloud bank. So that's going to start to put a damper on the show as early as 10, 11, 12 o'clock. Working our way through the overnight. Clouds are hanging with us. It's not to say we can't see some breaks in there, but there will be a fair amount of cloud cover all the way through sunrise tomorrow morning, and then at times some filtered sunshine tomorrow. Otherwise, not a bad Thursday. Mid to upper 50s, low 60s in a few spots, and that warming trend will continue right on through the end of the week. Friday, we're in the 60s. Saturday, we are in the mid to upper 60s. That'll be our warmest day of the next 10. Denise chiming in saying, I only see all green last night. I only see green tonight. Last night was green and purple. Denise, where are you? I assume you're probably a little bit further north, because I don't think we're seeing it just yet here. Check some numbers and see if anything's changed here. Well, it's still a tick up. We'll keep an eye on this, because this one comes in every half an hour. It's now up to a 5.5. Up from 4 earlier. No other major changes there, but again, keeping an eye on some things. Because again, this can change. It's like a light bulb, really. Things do change pretty quickly when it comes to auroras. Yvonne from Sailor Park, all right, chiming in. That is not who chimed in about the auroras seeing green tonight. That was Denise. Hovering over, it looks like Denise might be in Batavia. If that's the case, keep an eye out there. Again, darker the skies are, the better for you if you're going to be trying to see these tonight, because they might not be as vibrant as what you... So a lot of times here, too, this is the other thing about auroras, they can be a little bit misleading, because a lot of the things you see after the fact are photographs. And those photographs that you see that look amazing, right, like the ones I showed you earlier, those are photographs taken over a period of like anywhere between 8 to 30 seconds sometimes, so they pull in a lot of light. And they make them look a lot better than they are. Sometimes it's really hard to see even with the naked eye outside. So, yeah, stuff like this. Like that photo, that was probably, you know, if I zoomed in, I could probably tell you looking at the star trails. But that's probably like an 8 to 10 second photo to get that bright of auroras overhead. Your eyes might not see it as well, so that's what gets people a little disappointed. So just be aware of that. I don't want to oversell these because it will not look like that to the naked eye, especially if it's not as good as last night was. You're probably not going to see them at all with your naked eye, but you will be able to pick them up with your phone on night mode, right? Best chances for rain. Sean asking about actual weather, not space weather. I'll get there. We're getting there. Let's talk about it right now, because we're still waiting on the auroras to maybe make an appearance tonight. There will be other green showing up here on the screen. That arrives as early as Friday evening. Most of our southernmost communities, that's the best chance to see a light shower outside, but most of us, about 90% of us or more, are going to stay dry Friday. Saturday, slim chance early in the morning and late at night. So early in the morning, a few sprinkles, some filtered sunshine through the day, and then late Saturday night after 10 to 11 o'clock, we'll see that next round of rain pushing back in. That's our next best chance for some showers. But most of that rain is out of here by daybreak Sunday, and the rest of our day looks really nice. So the showers we're going to see through the weekend are well-timed. The next real best chance for heavier rainfall arrives next week. Monday looks to be the one dry day, and then things go downhill for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By Tuesday, even in the morning, heavier rain is going to slide on in. We'll see some thunderstorms embedded in this Tuesday evening. Wednesday, a little bit of a break early, and then things start to fill back in Thursday, Friday, and then that lingers into early Saturday of next week. In that time span, we are expecting some hefty rainfall totals. Some areas could pick up over an inch of rainfall, but that is not this weekend. This weekend looks good. Most areas, a little sprinkle, dinkle, and that's about it. And then we're on our way to a very wet start to next week. This has shifted. I told you this yesterday too. This shifted. It was the heavier amounts were off to the south. Now the heavier amounts are up to our northwest. So we're going to keep an eye on this. If it shifts right over top of us, that would be a not great scenario. That would put us in 2 to 3 inches of rain. Either way, it's going to be soggy and stormy next week either way. Let's see. Heaven asking what time. If you're asking about the auroras, our best opportunities here in the tri-state are going to be between about now and 10 o'clock. Or soon, I should say, and 10 o'clock. And I'm still looking at these indices, and nothing really sticking out to say they are definitely going to be out there immediately. But the trend is a little bit more promising Then, let's see, then just a little bit ago, we're up to now a G1. We need that to be a 4 on one scale, and then the other scale has been slowly ticking up over the last 15 minutes. 15 to 30 minutes. We'll see what happens with that if I'm still talking here in a few. So anytime between now and 10, I say 10 o'clock. I mean, you could still have these through the overnight. Just depends on where you're at. But the later we get in the night, the more clouds we're going to see here. And that's going to be an issue for us in the tri-state in particular. If you are somewhere else, it really depends on where you're at. At that point, it's anytime between now and sunrise. But for us, clouds could try to play spoiler out there this evening. High temperatures after this rainfall. It's going to cool us off a bit, but we're still going to be above normal there in the mid to upper 50s by the end of this forecast. That takes us to Saturday the 22nd. That is a weekend before Thanksgiving week. And if you're wondering about Thanksgiving week, 27th is Thanksgiving this year. This takes us to the day before. Days 8 to 14. Yes, that is how close Thanksgiving is. Off to the west coast, it looks to be below normal, but here we are still seeing that above normal trend through the end of November. So we are going to see, hopefully, a warm Thanksgiving. I say hopefully. I don't know. Depends on what you like, but I like the warmth. All right, before we hop back to Aurora's, we'll pull this up here real quick. Boop, 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 cross zoom. And the next 10 days, a really nice weekend. I know there's a couple rain icons on there, sprinkles and so on. Most of that rain is while you're sleeping, as long as you're not working a third shift. It'll be while you're sleeping out there, and most of the afternoons will be dry. Saturday, Sunday, not bad. Monday, another dry day. That is your last day to go clean out the storm drains and go make sure your gutters don't have leaves in them, because Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we do have rain chances, storm chances, and some areas are going to get walloped with an inch plus of rain, and that is certainly something you want your gutters to be not clogged for. So try to take care of those this week or early next week ahead of that rain threat. All right, well, let's hop back up here and see where we're at. I doubt anything is going to be popping on our downtown camera, which is now pointed not at downtown. No, I have nothing out there. Anything you're seeing there glow-wise on the horizon, those are just city lights. Yeah, nothing showing up on that one. Clovernut Country Club, nothing there either. Still dark, still early, still plenty of night and light to go. And per the last indices, things are starting to slowly tick up in the direction of the magnetic field is south, and that's where we want it. So it's not to say it's impossible. I just think tonight might be a little bit, just a little bit less exciting than last night. With that said, you might still be able to see them low on the horizon. So get out there, check it out. If I see anything happening, you'll be the first to know if, and only if, you are following me on social media. So here's a shameless self-plug there. Meteorologist Brad Maushart on the Facebook page. If you're not following me on there, that would be a good one if you want some really terrible jokes, like the difference between the southern and northern lights. That was a dumb joke, but it's on there. Forecast for Cincinnati. If you want those, I'm a pretty good source. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And anyway, we'll keep an eye on the skies tonight. And like I said, enjoy the next couple of days. Looks pretty good and nice and warm as well as we round out this week and head into the weekend. Much better than the snow we saw to start the week. We'll keep an eye on things for you and let you know if those auroras start to pick up. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. We'll see you again tonight. We'll do it again at 10. We'll see you then.